It's funny how life can throw you curveballs when you least expect them. My name is Mike, and I've been married to Jessica for 5 years. We met in college, bonded over our shared love for art and music, and seemed like the perfect match. I always thought we had a solid relationship, built on trust and mutual respect. But looking back, there were little signs that I brushed off. You know, the vague excuses for late nights or sudden changes in her social circle that I just chalked up to her being busy with work. It's easy to ignore the red flags when you want to believe the best in someone. Things started to shift about 3 months ago. Jessica began spending more time working late at her job as a graphic designer. I'd come home to an empty house, and the evenings that we used to spend together watching movies or cooking dinner turned into her disappearing for hours. At first, I thought maybe she was swamped with projects, but there was something off about her demeanor. The way she brushed me off when I'd ask about her day, or the way her phone would buzz with messages that she would hastily lock away when I entered the room. It felt wrong, but I never imagined the depths of betrayal that awaited me. One evening, I decided to surprise her with dinner. I thought it might rekindle some of the spark we'd been missing. So I prepared her favorite dish, lit some candles, and put on a playlist of our favorite songs. When I checked the time, it was getting late, and she still hadn't come home. I felt a familiar knot of anxiety in my stomach. After waiting an hour longer than I expected, I decided to call her. It rang 3 times before going to voicemail. My heart sank. I could feel the impulse to jump to conclusions, but I didn't want to overreact. It wasn't until I decided to check her social media that I stumbled onto something I never expected. I could see she had posted a picture of herself with a guy I recognized as her college friend, David, an artist known for his abstract paintings. The caption read, "Late night inspiration with this genius, art life." My gut twisted painfully. Jessica never mentioned hanging out with him, but there they were, arms draped over each other, grinning like they were sharing a secret I wasn't a part of. I knew I had to confront her. The image burned in my mind as I waited up for her, my heart pounding with a mix of anger and confusion. When she finally walked through the door, I could see she was slightly tipsy, her cheeks flushed and her eyes sparkling with a misdirected joy. The moment she stepped into the living room, I confronted her, the words tumbling out in a rush. "Who is David? Do you think I'm stupid? Is there something going on between you two?" Her reaction was immediate: surprise, anger, and then a carefully constructed mask of innocence. "Mike, it's not what it looks like. We were just talking about art," she exclaimed, her voice rising defensively. "You know how passionate he is about his work. It was nothing, I swear." But I wasn't hearing any of it. I felt a wave of disbelief crash over me, drowning out her excuses. She had lied to me, and as she backpedaled and offered up flimsy justifications, I could see the cracks in her facade. I didn't want to believe it, but my instincts were screaming that something was deeply wrong. The confrontation spiraled into a heated argument, filled with accusations, tears, and painfully sharp truths. The more she talked, the more my heart shattered. She had betrayed me, not just with David's friendship, but with the trust I thought we had built together. I could see in her eyes that she was torn between her guilt and the thrill of the affair. That night I felt like I was unraveling, and as the words, "I can't believe you would do this to me," fell from my lips, I realized the depth of my pain. As she stormed off to the bedroom, leaving me standing in the living room staring at the remnants of what used to be our life together, I felt a darkness settle over me. Suddenly, the world felt heavy. I was drowning in a sea of betrayal, and I didn't know how to swim back to the surface. It was the beginning of a long, tumultuous journey to uncover the truth and decide what to do next. I was left with a single question: how could I let this betrayal define my life? The days following that explosive confrontation with Jessica felt surreal. I went through the motions of my daily routine, but my mind was consumed by the reality of her betrayal. I replayed our last conversation over and over, trying to decipher any hidden clues or truths that might have slipped through the chaos. It was all-consuming. I couldn't focus on work, and my friends noticed my distracted demeanor. They reached out, asking if I was okay, but I couldn't bring myself to share the depths of my pain just yet. I threw myself into research. I found myself scouring the internet for stories of infidelity, looking for answers, hoping to understand how relationships could crumble so easily. I learned about the stages of grief that one goes through after betrayal: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Ironically, I was already cycling through them, as if I were on some twisted emotional roller coaster. One night, unable to sleep, I found myself scrolling through Jessica's social media. That's when I noticed something peculiar. David had been tagged in multiple posts over the last few months. They were always at art exhibits, parties, or casual hangouts. It dawned on me that this wasn't just a casual fling. It was a full-blown affair. The realization cut deeper than I thought possible. I felt my stomach churn as I realized she was living a double life, and I was the fool left in the dark. I decided I needed proof. I wanted to confront her again, but this time with irrefutable evidence. I began tracking her movements subtly. I noted when she left for work, when she came home, and how often she picked up her phone to text or call someone. Each moment I spent in the shadows felt like I was betraying her, but the truth was, she had already betrayed me. The lines between right and wrong blurred as I became consumed by a need for truth and revenge. Then, one fateful evening, I struck gold. I decided to follow her after work. I found myself sitting in my car outside a trendy bar downtown, one I had never seen her visit before. It was a vibrant place filled with laughter and music, yet I felt like I was standing in a tomb, my heart pounding louder than the rock music blaring through the windows. I watched as Jessica arrived, looking stunning in a fitted red dress. She walked in with a bounce in her step, her hair flowing behind her like a banner of freedom. It was a stark contrast to the tired and defeated woman I had seen after our last confrontation. My blood boiled as I saw her meet David at the bar. They greeted each other with a hug that lingered too long and laughter that rang out like a betrayal of our vows. I could hardly believe my eyes when they sat down together, ordering drinks and leaning in close, their body language suggesting an intimacy that went far beyond friendship. I felt sick. I had never considered myself the jealous type, but in that moment all I could feel was rage. It ignited something within me, a fire that I couldn't ignore. As I watched, the bartender placed drinks in front of them, and Jessica leaned in, whispering something in David's ear that made him laugh. My heart shattered further as the realization hit me. I was witnessing a scene that should have been reserved for the two of us. I suddenly felt an overwhelming urge to burst in, to confront both of them right there, but I refrained. I wanted to gather more evidence, to arm myself with the truth before I executed my plan. I returned home that night feeling unmoored yet determined. I had seen enough. That was the moment I decided that I would no longer be the passive victim in this scenario. Jessica's deceit had opened my eyes to the reality of our marriage, a reality that now felt like a sham. I began to plot my revenge, not out of malice, but as a way to reclaim my dignity. I wanted her to understand the impact of her actions, to feel the weight of the betrayal she had dealt me. I wasn't just going to end it, I was going to make a statement. I remembered how much Jessica adored art, how it had always been a central theme in her life. It hit me like a bolt of lightning. If she thought she could have a secret life with an artist, then I would disappear from her life like a masterpiece she could never own. I decided to buy something she had always coveted, a painting from a renowned artist. I contacted a gallery that showcased pieces by David, the very artist Jessica was so infatuated with. I knew I had to get my hands on a piece that would encapsulate my revenge and send a clear message. This was more than a mere act of retaliation. It was about reclaiming my power, my identity, and my self-worth. The plan was set in motion. I felt a renewed sense of purpose as I delved into the art world, researching and contacting gallery owners, all while keeping my intentions hidden from Jessica. Every step I took brought me closer to a resolution, and with each passing day, I felt more and more like the man I had been before her betrayal. I was no longer the man who would simply accept wrongs. I was ready to write my own narrative. But what would it mean to execute this plan? Would it bring me the closure I sought, or would it only deepen the wounds? Only time would tell. The days turned into weeks as my plan took shape. I delved deeper into the art gallery scene, immersing myself in the world that Jessica had once adored. I learned about various artists, their styles, and the emotional depths that their work could evoke. I discovered that David was not just any artist. He had a reputation for being bold and provocative, someone who pushed boundaries and challenged norms. It made the thought of acquiring a piece from him even more tantalizing. I scheduled an appointment with the gallery owner, an affable man named Charles who seemed genuinely enthusiastic about his work. The moment I walked into the gallery, I was hit by a wave of color and creativity. Paintings of all styles adorned the walls, each telling its own story. I felt a mixture of excitement and apprehension as I approached Charles, but I was determined to keep my emotions in check. "Welcome. What brings you in today?" he asked, eyeing me with curiosity. "I'm looking to make a significant purchase, a statement piece," I replied, trying to sound as confident as possible. "I've got something specific in mind, and I want it to reflect a personal journey." He raised an eyebrow, intrigued. "What kind of journey are we talking about?" I hesitated for a moment, knowing that I didn't want to disclose every detail about my motivation. A journey of self-discovery and reclamation, I suppose. I want something that speaks to resilience and transformation. Charles nodded, clearly interpreting the emotion behind my words. "We have a fantastic collection of pieces from several artists. I think I might have just the thing for you." He led me through the gallery, stopping in front of a striking piece that caught my eye immediately. It was a bold, abstract painting, filled with vivid colors and chaotic brushstrokes that seemed to clash and harmonize at the same time. It was titled Rebirth, and I could feel an immediate connection to it. "This piece is by David," Charles explained, glancing at me for a reaction. "He created it during a particularly transformative period in his life. It's meant to evoke a sense of liberation and new beginnings." The irony was palpable. It was as if the universe was mocking me for the choice I would make. Paying a small fortune for a work of art that symbolized my reclamation while simultaneously giving David a platform for his betrayal felt like a twisted joke. But I couldn't back down now. This was my chance to make a statement and to take back control. "I'll take it," I said, surprising even myself with how resolute my voice sounded. Charles beamed. "Excellent choice. I'll have it wrapped up and ready for delivery. You won't regret this purchase. It will be a centerpiece in your home." As I left the gallery, I felt a wave of satisfaction wash over me. I was taking a step forward, turning my anger and betrayal into something tangible. But I knew this was only the beginning. I had to figure out how to reveal the painting to Jessica in a way that would hit her hard, a way that would drive the point home without leaving room for denial. In the following days, I meticulously planned the reveal. I decided to invite her to dinner at one of our favorite restaurants, the kind of place that held sentimental value for both of us. I would keep the evening casual and light, but I knew I needed to maintain an air of mystique. I imagined her reaction when I unveiled my surprise, and the thought fueled my excitement. The evening finally arrived. I donned my best suit, a deliberate contrast to the casualness she had adopted since our struggles began. I wanted her to remember the man she once fell in love with, the man who appreciated the finer things in life. When Jessica walked through the door, I was struck by how beautiful she looked, her hair cascading over her shoulders and her eyes sparkling, though now they seemed to hold an edge of uncertainty. "Wow, you clean up nice," she said, her voice a mixture of surprise and appreciation. I smiled, but inside I was a whirlwind of nerves. As we sat down for dinner, I felt the weight of unspoken words hanging between us. We chatted about mundane topics, her work and the latest art scene, but my mind was racing with thoughts of the revelation that awaited her. As dinner drew to a close, I took a deep breath. "I have something special to show you tonight," I said, gauging her reaction. "There's a surprise waiting for you at home." Her curiosity piqued, but there was a flicker of apprehension in her eyes. "What is it?" she asked, leaning forward slightly, a hint of excitement mingling with her uncertainty. "You'll see," I replied, a smirk playing on my lips. When we arrived home, I could feel the tension radiating from her. I had set up a small spotlight in the living room to illuminate the space where the painting would be displayed. I walked in first, gesturing for her to follow. "Close your eyes." She complied, albeit hesitantly. I moved to the wall and unveiled the painting, stepping aside dramatically. "Okay, open your eyes." Her reaction was instantaneous. The moment she saw the artwork, her expression shifted from curiosity to shock. Her mouth fell open and she took a step back, the color draining from her face. "What? What is this?" she stuttered, taking in the swirling chaos of colors and the title, Rebirth, prominently displayed at the bottom. "It's a piece by David," I said, watching as her face transformed from shock to confusion. "Isn't it beautiful?" There was a moment of silence that felt like an eternity. I could see the realization dawning on her. This wasn't just a painting, it was a calculated statement, a reflection of what I had learned about myself since discovering her betrayal. I had turned her affair into a powerful symbol, one she could never own because I had transformed my pain into something beautiful. "Mike, you didn't." She finally managed to say, her voice trembling, but it was unclear whether she was angry, hurt, or something else entirely. I stepped closer, my heart racing as I prepared for the confrontation that would follow. "Oh, I absolutely did. I wanted you to know that while you were out there playing with fire, I was busy reclaiming what's mine." The tension in the room crackled as we stared at each other, the silence heavy with unspoken words. I was ready for this moment, but I could feel the emotional weight of our past pressing down on us. The battle lines had been drawn, and now it was time to see who would emerge victorious in this war of hearts. The air in the room was electric, charged with the aftermath of my revelation. Jessica stood frozen, staring at the painting, and I could feel a whirlwind of emotions swirling between us. Shock, anger, guilt. The intensity of the moment was palpable. I waited for her to respond, my heart pounding in my chest as seconds stretched into what felt like hours. "Mike, this isn't fair," she finally said, her voice barely above a whisper. "You can't just throw this at me like a grenade." "Why not?" I shot back, feeling my emotions boiling over. "You've been throwing grenades at me for months. You think I'm just supposed to sit here and let you walk all over me while you've been playing house with David?" Her eyes flared with indignation, and for a moment I saw the woman I fell in love with, the vibrant spirit who used to stand by my side, unshakable and fiery. "This is just another attempt to control me, isn't it? Buying that painting isn't going to change what happened between us. Is that what you think this is about, control?" I asked incredulously. "This is about self-respect. You turned our marriage into a joke, Jessica, and I'm not laughing anymore. I wanted you to feel the weight of what you've done." She looked away, her hands trembling slightly as they clutched her purse. I can't believe you would do something like this. I thought you loved me." "Love doesn't mean allowing someone to betray you without consequence," I retorted. "You've made your choices, and now I'm making mine." Jessica took a deep breath, her composure wavering. "I never meant for it to go this far. David, he was just someone I could talk to. I thought you were growing distant and I wanted to feel alive again. It was a mistake. Please, I'm sorry." Her plea hung in the air, but it felt hollow. I had heard her excuses before, and they were nothing more than thinly veiled justifications for her actions. I wanted to reach out to feel the warmth of our connection again, but the betrayal had cut too deep. "I need you to understand something," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "This isn't just about you and me anymore. It's about me reclaiming my worth. I'm not the man who will accept being treated like a fool. I refuse to be a casualty of your choices." She took a step back, her expression shifting from anger to despair. "So, what happens now? Are you just going to throw me away like I mean nothing to you?" The question stung. "I'm not throwing you away, Jessica. You did that when you chose to betray my trust. You need to face the consequences of your actions. I bought this painting to remind us both of what you've lost." Her eyes filled with tears, and I felt a flicker of empathy surge within me. I had loved her deeply, and despite everything, a part of me still wanted to believe in us, but I couldn't ignore the reality of the situation. "I don't want to lose you, but I can't keep living like this. I need space to figure things out." "Space," she echoed, her voice breaking. "Is that your way of saying you want a divorce?" I hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing heavily on my chest. I don't know what I want right now, but I do know I can't keep pretending everything is okay when it is. I need to think about what's best for me. Jessica took a shaky breath, wiping her tears away, her resolve fraying. If you think this painting, this statement will make me realize my mistakes, you're wrong. I'm still here, Mike. I want to fix this. Please, let's work through it together. Work through it. I repeated, incredulous. How can we work through something when you've already chosen someone else over me? You've already made a commitment to someone who isn't me. How can I trust you again? I could see her struggle to find words, the emotional turmoil swirling within her. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Instead, she turned away, pacing around the room as if searching for a way to mend the fragments of our shattered relationship. I don't want to lose you, Mike. She finally admitted, her voice cracking under the weight of her vulnerability. You mean everything to me, even if I messed up. I felt a pang of sorrow at her words, and the anger I had been holding onto began to dissipate. It was a strange feeling, this mixture of love and pain, of wanting to forgive yet knowing I needed to set boundaries. I don't know if I can forgive you right now, I confessed, my voice softer, but I'm willing to think about it. I need time to process everything. Her body language shifted, the tension easing slightly as she nodded. Okay. I can give you space, but I want you to know that I'm willing to fight for us, Mike. I will do whatever it takes to make this right. Then let's see what that looks like, I replied, feeling a flicker of hope mixed with uncertainty. But I can't promise anything will change overnight. Trust takes time to rebuild. As we stood there, the weight of our words settling around us, I realized that while I was reclaiming my power, our story was far from over. The path ahead was fraught with challenges, but perhaps there was still a glimmer of hope. Perhaps this could be the beginning of our healing, provided we were both willing to put in the work. But my resolve remained firm. I would no longer allow myself to be the victim in our relationship. I had taken a bold step towards reclaiming my identity, and now it was time to navigate the aftermath together, one cautious step at a time. In the days that followed our emotional confrontation, things felt different. I had set boundaries, and Jessica seemed to genuinely want to work through our issues. The painting hung in the living room, a constant reminder of the tumultuous journey we were on. Its vibrant colors were like a beacon of both hope and pain, symbolizing the duality of our relationship. It was hard to ignore the way it illuminated the space, as if urging us to confront the shadows that lurked in the corners of our lives. I took some time off work, needing a mental break to clear my head and reflect on everything that had happened. I started journaling, writing down my thoughts and feelings about the affair, my emotions, and what I truly wanted from this marriage moving forward. The act of putting pen to paper was cathartic, helping me process the whirlwind of confusion that had enveloped me. Some days were better than others. Some days I felt strength surging through me, while others left me feeling like I was drowning in self-doubt. Jessica, on the other hand, seemed committed to showing me that she could be different, that she could earn back my trust. She started engaging more in our conversations, being genuinely interested in my feelings and asking how I was coping. It felt nice to have that connection again, but there was still a nagging sense of betrayal in the back of my mind. I didn't want to let my guard down too quickly, but I also did want to shut her out completely. One evening, as I was sitting on the couch, I heard her enter the room with an excited energy that caught my attention. "I have something for you," she exclaimed, her eyes sparkling. I raised an eyebrow, curious yet cautious. "What is it?" She pulled out a small, beautifully wrapped box from behind her back and handed it to me. "Open it." I unwrapped the box slowly, revealing a handmade sketchbook. It was filled with blank pages, a thoughtful gift that surprised me. "Wow, this is beautiful, Jess. Thank you," I said, genuinely touched. "I thought you could use it for your journaling," she replied, her voice softening. "I know how much it's helped you. I want to support you in this journey." I felt a wave of warmth wash over me. It was a simple gesture, but it spoke volumes about her willingness to reconnect and understand my needs. "This means a lot," I said, looking into her eyes. "Thank you for being thoughtful." As the evening progressed, we talked about the future, exploring what it would look like if we chose to fight for our marriage. We discussed attending couples therapy, something I had initially resisted but now felt was necessary. I wanted a neutral space where we could both express our feelings and work through our challenges together. It was a step I was willing to take if it meant we could rebuild our relationship on a stronger foundation. Tension eased between us, and I found myself opening up about my feelings more than I ever thought I would. But the specter of her affair still loomed over us. I had questions that lingered in the back of my mind, questions I needed answers to in order to truly move forward. Jessica, I began hesitantly one night, can we talk about the affair? I need to understand why it happened. What was going through your mind? She took a deep breath, her eyes clouding with emotion. I wish I could give you a simple answer. It wasn't about David, not really. It was about me feeling lost. I felt like I was drifting away from you, and I thought that maybe this would bring me back to life. I didn't think about how it would affect you or us. I was selfish. Her honesty hit me hard. The admission was raw and unfiltered, and I could see the regret etched on her face. I need you to know that this wasn't you failing to be a husband. This was me failing to communicate. I'm sorry for not being honest with you about how I felt. I nodded, absorbing her words. I appreciate you being honest with me now, but it doesn't erase the hurt. I need to know that you understand the gravity of your actions. You can't just say you're sorry and expect things to go back to normal. I do understand, she said earnestly. I know that rebuilding trust is a process. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right, to show you that I can be the partner you deserve. I wanted to believe her, but skepticism lingered. It's going to take time, Jess. You have to be patient with me. I'm still processing everything, and I don't want to rush into anything. Of course. I'm here for the long haul, she assured me, her eyes gleaming with determination. As we continued to talk, I felt a small seed of hope begin to take root in my heart. Maybe there was a path forward for us if we both committed to the process. But it wouldn't be easy. I knew that, and so did she. That week, we began attending couples therapy. It was a strange experience, sitting across from a therapist who guided us through the complex layers of our emotions. The first few sessions were emotionally draining. We argued, cried, and faced uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our relationship. But amid the turbulence, there were glimpses of understanding. Jessica and I began to share more about our insecurities, our fears, and our hopes for the future. I learned about her feelings of inadequacy and how they contributed to her seeking validation outside our marriage. She learned about my struggles with trust and how her actions had left scars I couldn't easily shake. With every session, we peeled back another layer of our relationship, unveiling the complexities beneath the surface. It was exhausting but cathartic. I began to recognize the patterns that had led us to this point and how we could work to break them. I realized that rebuilding would take time, but I was finally willing to invest in it. Every time I sat in that therapist's office, I felt a mixture of vulnerability and strength. I was no longer the passive victim in our story. I was an active participant, ready to face the challenges ahead. But even as I began to feel hopeful, I knew the road ahead wouldn't be a straight path. There would still be obstacles, moments of doubt, and painful reminders of the past. However, for the first time in a long time, I felt like we were moving in the right direction. There was light at the end of the tunnel, and I was determined to reach it, hand in hand with the woman who had once betrayed me but was now fighting to win my trust back. As the weeks turned into months, the journey of rebuilding our marriage continued to unfold. Therapy became a cornerstone of our progress. Each session revealed more about ourselves and each other, and while we still had moments of tension and discomfort, we were learning how to navigate them together. The deep-rooted issues that had contributed to Jessica's infidelity were gradually surfacing, and with each revelation, we found new ways to communicate and connect. Jessica was committed to her growth, attending workshops on emotional intelligence and self-improvement while continuously seeking deeper understanding of the choices she had made. I admired her dedication, but I also felt the weight of the past hanging over us. Trust was a fragile thing, and even though I was learning to open up again, I still struggled with the fear of being hurt. One evening, as we sat on the couch talking about our progress over a glass of wine, I decided to share something that had been on my mind. You know, I still think about the affair and I'm not sure if I'll ever fully erase that pain, I confessed, watching her carefully. I know, she replied, rolling her glass between her fingers. It's something I'll have to live with forever and I regret it every day. But I want to show you that I'm not that person anymore. I want to be better for you. Her sincerity resonated with me. I could see how deeply she felt the weight of her choices, and it made me realize that healing wasn't just about forgetting. It was about learning and growing from the experience. I appreciate that, I said softly. I'm working on forgiving, but I need to be honest about where I'm at. It's a process for me. I completely understand, she replied, her eyes filled with understanding. And I'll be here every step of the way, no matter how long it takes. The truth was, I had come to terms with the fact that rebuilding trust would not be a linear path. There would be good days filled with laughter and connection, and then there would be moments where the ghosts of the past would rear their ugly heads. But I was willing to face those moments with her, as long as she was committed to the journey as well. One evening, after a particularly rewarding therapy session, we decided to go out for dinner. As we walked through the city streets, hand in hand, I felt a renewed sense of hope wash over me. The vibrant lights of the restaurants and shops illuminated our surroundings, but it was the warmth of Jessica's hand in mine that truly felt like a beacon guiding us forward. As we sat down at a small Italian restaurant, I noticed that there was a subtle shift in our dynamic. Jessica looked radiant, her laughter came easily, and for the first time in a long time I felt a lightness in my heart. Our conversation flowed effortlessly, and I realized that while the shadows of the past lingered, they no longer dominated our relationship. Mike, she said suddenly, her tone serious but gentle, I want to thank you for being willing to work through this. I know it's not easy and I appreciate your patience. I smiled, the warmth of her words hitting me like a wave. I appreciate how hard you're working too. It's not lost on me. As we shared our meal, our laughter echoed off the walls, and I found myself lost in the moment. I was no longer the man who had felt betrayed and broken. I was rebuilding my life, and in doing so, I was rediscovering the love I had for Jessica, a love that was still there, albeit transformed. After dinner, we strolled through a nearby park, basking in the crisp evening air. The leaves crunched beneath our feet, and the stars began to twinkle above us. It felt like the world was conspiring to help us find our way back to each other. Mike, she said, stopping to face me as we reached a quiet corner of the park. I want you to know that I'm committed to this. I want to be the partner you deserve. Jessica, I see the effort you're making and it matters to me, I replied earnestly. But I also need to focus on myself to heal and grow. I can't promise that I'll forget, but I want to move forward with you. She nodded, her expression earnest. That's all I can ask for. I want us to grow together, to support each other, and to create a future that's built on honesty and love. Under the starlit sky, I felt a warmth enveloping us, and I knew that while the road ahead would still have bumps, we were on the right track. We shared a quiet moment, and in that silence I felt a deep connection, a thread weaving our hearts back together. As we walked back to the car, I couldn't help but glance at the painting that hung in our home. It had become a symbol not just of betrayal, but of our journey toward healing and redemption. It reminded me that even amid chaos, beauty can emerge, that rebirth is possible. The affair had been a painful chapter in our story, one that would forever be a part of our narrative. But it was no longer the defining moment. We were writing a new chapter together, one filled with hope, understanding, and the promise of a love that could withstand the storms. As we drove home, hand in hand, I felt a renewed sense of purpose. I was ready to embrace the journey ahead, to learn and grow alongside the woman who had once broken my heart but was now fighting to mend it. Together, we would navigate the complexities of our relationship, one day at a time. And for the first time in a long while, I felt optimistic about what the future held.